Maya pulled her backpack higher on her shoulder as she walked through the heavy glass doors of First National Bank. The cool air conditioning hit her face, a welcome relief from the hot afternoon sun outside. She had been looking forward to this moment all week, finally old enough to handle her own banking and deposit the birthday money her grandmother had given her. At 17, Maya felt proud to be taking this step toward independence. Her parents had always encouraged her to learn about money management, and today felt like a milestone. She wore her favorite jeans, clean white sneakers, and a navy blue hoodie with her school's logo on it. To her, she looked perfectly presentable for a quick trip to the bank. The bank was busier than she expected for a Tuesday afternoon. Several customers waited in line, and Maya noticed how efficiently the tellers were helping everyone. She watched as an older gentleman in work clothes deposited what looked like a paycheck. The teller smiled warmly, made small talk about the weather, and completed his transaction quickly. Next, a woman in business attire withdrew cash for a lunch meeting. Again, the interaction was smooth and friendly. Maya felt confident as she approached the available teller window. The nameplate read, Linda Chen, and Maya smiled politely as she stepped forward. "Good afternoon," Maya said cheerfully. "I'd like to deposit this money into my savings account and withdraw $40 for a school project." She placed her birthday envelope on the counter along with her student ID and debit card. The envelope contained $300 in cash, money her grandmother had saved up specially for Maya's 17th birthday. Her grandmother always said education was the most important investment, and this money was meant to help with college expenses. Linda looked at Maya with raised eyebrows, then glanced at the envelope without touching it. Her friendly demeanor, from moments before, seemed to vanish completely. "Where did you get this money?" Linda asked, her tone sharp and suspicious. Maya blinked in surprise. "It's my birthday money from my grandmother. I just want to deposit it." $300 is a lot of money for someone your age," Linda said, crossing her arms. "Do you have any proof of where this came from?" Maya felt confused. She had watched the previous customers complete their transactions without any questions about their money sources. Well, it's a gift. My grandmother gave it to me for my birthday last week." Linda picked up the envelope and examined it closely, as if looking for evidence of something suspicious. "This is all cash. No check, no bank transfer, just cash." "Yes, my grandmother prefers cash," Maya explained, trying to stay patient. "She's older and doesn't really use banks much. Is there a problem?" Instead of answering, Linda called over her shoulder. "Hey, Robert, can you come here for a minute?" A middle-aged man in a crisp white shirt and tie approached the window. His nameplate identified him as Robert Harrison, assistant manager. He looked Maya up and down, taking in her casual clothes and youthful appearance. "What seems to be the issue?" Robert asked Linda, though his eyes stayed fixed on Maya. "This young lady wants to deposit $300 in cash," Linda explained. "Says it's birthday money from her grandmother." Robert nodded slowly, as if this explanation confirmed his suspicions. "I see. And you don't have any documentation for this gift?" Maya felt her cheeks growing warm. Documentation? It's a birthday present. Do people usually document birthday presents? "Large cash gifts, yes," Robert replied curtly. "Especially when they're being deposited by minors." "I'm 17, Maya said, trying to keep her voice steady. "And I have an account here. I've been banking here for 2 years." Other customers in line were starting to notice the commotion. Maya could feel their eyes on her, and she began to feel embarrassed. What had started as a simple errand was turning into an interrogation. Linda typed something into her computer, frowning at the screen. "Your account shows mostly small deposits. $5 here, $10 there. This $300 is much larger than your usual activity. Because it's a special birthday gift," Maya repeated, her patience wearing thin. "My grandmother saved up to give me something meaningful for my 17th birthday." Robert exchanged a look with Linda that Maya didn't like. There was something in their expressions that made her stomach twist with anxiety. "We're going to need to verify this before we can process the deposit," Robert announced. "Can you call your grandmother to confirm?" Maya pulled out her phone, grateful to have a way to resolve this misunderstanding. But when she dialed her grandmother's number, it went straight to voicemail. Her grandmother was probably taking her afternoon nap, something she did religiously every day at this time. "She's not answering," Maya said. "But I can try again in an hour. She always naps in the afternoon." "That's convenient," Linda muttered under her breath. Maya felt a flash of anger. "Excuse me?" "Nothing," Linda said quickly, but her expression remained skeptical. The customer behind Maya in line cleared his throat impatiently. Maya turned to see a man in an expensive suit checking his watch and looking annoyed at the delay. "Look," Maya said, turning back to the tellers, "can I just deposit the money and come back with my grandmother tomorrow? Or maybe you could call the branch manager." Robert shook his head. "The branch manager is in meetings all afternoon and we can't process large cash deposits without proper verification." "But you just helped that man deposit his paycheck without asking any questions," Maya pointed out, gesturing toward the gentleman who had been ahead of her in line. "That was different," Linda said dismissively. "That was clearly employment income." "How was it clearly anything?" Maya asked, her voice rising slightly. "You didn't ask him for documentation." Several customers were now openly staring at the scene unfolding at the teller window. Maya felt mortified, but she also felt something else rising within her, a sense of injustice that she couldn't ignore. An elderly woman near the back of the line spoke up. "Excuse me, but I've been watching this whole interaction, and this young lady seems perfectly legitimate to me. I deposit cash gifts from my children all the time without any problems." Robert turned toward the woman with a forced smile. "Ma'am, I appreciate your input, but bank policy requires us to verify large cash deposits, especially from younger customers." "I didn't see you verify anything for the other customers," the woman replied firmly. Maya felt grateful for the support, but also increasingly uncomfortable with being the center of attention. All she had wanted was to deposit her birthday money and get cash for her school project. Instead, she was being treated like a criminal. "Maybe we should call security," Linda suggested quietly to Robert, but her whisper was loud enough for Maya to hear. Maya's heart began racing. Security? For trying to deposit birthday money? She looked around the bank, noticing how other customers were being served quickly and courteously at the other windows. The contrast was impossible to ignore. She took a deep breath, trying to maintain her composure despite the humiliation burning in her chest. Something was very wrong with this situation, and she was starting to understand exactly what it was. Maya felt her hands starting to shake as the word security hung in the air. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. All around her, other customers were completing their transactions without any problems, while she was being treated like she had committed some terrible crime. "Why would you need to call security?" Maya asked, her voice quieter now but filled with disbelief. "I'm just trying to deposit money into my own account." Linda and Robert exchanged another one of those looks that made Maya's stomach churn. She was beginning to recognize that look. It was the same expression she sometimes saw from store clerks who followed her around shops, or from people who crossed the street when they saw her walking toward them. "Young lady, I think you need to adjust your attitude," Linda said, her voice taking on a condescending tone that Maya had never heard directed at the other customers. "We're just trying to follow proper procedures here." "My attitude?" Maya repeated, feeling a mix of hurt and anger bubbling up inside her. "I've been nothing but polite. I haven't raised my voice or been rude to anyone." The elderly woman who had spoken up earlier stepped closer to the window. "She's absolutely right," the woman said firmly. "This young lady has been perfectly respectful. I've been banking here for 30 years and I've never seen anyone treated like this for a simple deposit." Robert turned toward the elderly woman with an expression that barely concealed his irritation. "Mrs. Peterson, I understand your concern, but this really isn't your business. We have protocols we need to follow." "Protocols that seem to only apply to certain people," Mrs. Peterson replied, not backing down. "I deposited $500 in cash last month from my garage sale, and nobody asked me a single question about it." Maya felt a small surge of gratitude toward Mrs. Peterson, but she could also see that the bank employees were becoming more defensive rather than reconsidering their actions. "That's completely different," Linda snapped. Mrs. Peterson is a long-standing customer with an established relationship with this bank. So am I, Maya said, finding her voice again. I've had an account here for 2 years. I come in regularly. Some of your other tellers know me by name. 2 years isn't very long, Robert said dismissively. And your account activity has been minimal until today. Maya stared at him in disbelief. I'm 17 years old. Of course my account activity is minimal. I'm still in high school. I get money from babysitting and my part-time job at the bookstore. How much money do you think teenagers usually have? By now, the entire bank seemed to be focused on their conversation. Maya could see customers at the other windows turning to look, and she noticed that the other tellers had slowed down their work to listen. The humiliation was overwhelming, but underneath it, she felt a growing sense of determination not to let this injustice continue. A security guard appeared at Robert's side. Maya recognized him as someone she had seen during her previous visits to the bank, though they had never spoken. His name tag read, Officer Williams. Is there a problem here? Officer Williams asked, looking directly at Maya as if she were the source of the trouble. This young woman is trying to deposit a large amount of cash without proper documentation, Robert explained. She's been uncooperative when we've asked for verification. Maya's mouth dropped open. Uncooperative? I answered every question you asked. I tried to call my grandmother. I offered to bring her in tomorrow. How is that uncooperative? Officer Williams studied Maya with the same suspicious look she had been receiving from Linda and Robert. Ma'am, these folks are just trying to do their jobs. Large cash deposits require verification. But they didn't verify anything for the other customers, Maya protested, her voice starting to rise despite her efforts to stay calm. I watched 3 people deposit money before me, and nobody asked them for documentation. Those were different situations, Officer Williams replied. How are they different? Maya demanded. Because those people were white and I'm not? The words came out before Maya could stop them. The entire bank fell silent. Even the conversations at the other windows stopped. Maya immediately regretted speaking so directly, but she couldn't take the words back now. Robert's face flushed red. Now you're being ridiculous. This has nothing to do with race. We treat all our customers equally. Do you? Mrs. Peterson interjected. Because I've been standing here watching this entire interaction, and I can tell you that this young lady is being treated very differently than anyone else I've seen today. Linda slammed her hand down on the counter. Ma'am, I'm going to ask you to step away from the window if you're not conducting business. I am conducting business, Mrs. Peterson said firmly. I'm waiting to make a deposit, and I'm also witnessing what appears to be discrimination against this young woman. Maya felt tears starting to form in her eyes, but she blinked them back. She refused to cry in front of these people who were treating her so unfairly. Instead, she took a deep breath and tried once more to reason with them. Look, I understand that you have procedures, Maya said, her voice steady despite her emotions. But I've provided my ID, my debit card, and I've explained where the money came from. I've offered to bring my grandmother in tomorrow. What else do you need me to do? We need you to understand that we can't just take your word for things, Robert said. Large cash deposits are often associated with illegal activities. The implication hit Maya like a slap in the face. Are you suggesting that I'm involved in illegal activities? I'm not suggesting anything, Robert replied. I'm just explaining why we need proper verification. Officer Williams stepped closer to Maya. Miss, I think it would be best if you came back another time when you can provide proper documentation for this money. Maya looked around the bank at all the faces staring at her. Some looked sympathetic, like Mrs. Peterson. Others seemed annoyed at the delay she was causing. A few appeared to agree with the bank staff's treatment of her, but all of them were watching, all of them were judging, and all of them had witnessed her humiliation. Fine, Maya said quietly, gathering up her money and her cards. I'll take my business elsewhere. That's probably for the best, Linda said, not even trying to hide her relief. As Maya turned to leave, Mrs. Peterson touched her arm gently. Honey, don't you let them get away with this. What happened here today was wrong, and you know it. Maya nodded, not trusting herself to speak. She walked toward the exit on unsteady legs, feeling the weight of everyone's stares on her back. As she pushed through the heavy glass doors, she heard Officer Williams telling the other customers that everything was fine and that normal service would resume. Outside in the parking lot, Maya finally allowed the tears to come. She sat on a bench near the bus stop and pulled out her phone. Her hands were still shaking as she scrolled through her contacts. There was only one person she wanted to talk to right now. Only one person who would understand exactly what had just happened and who would know what to do about it. She found her father's number and pressed call. Maya wiped her eyes with the back of her hand as she waited for her father to answer. The phone rang once, twice, and then she heard his familiar voice. "Hey, sweetheart. How did the bank trip go?" David asked cheerfully. Maya could hear the sounds of his office in the background. Keyboards clicking, phones ringing, people talking in hushed professional tones. Maya's voice caught in her throat. For a moment, she couldn't speak at all. All the emotions she had been holding back during the confrontation in the bank came rushing forward. "Maya, are you there? What's wrong?" Her father's voice immediately shifted from casual to concerned. "Dad," Maya managed to say, her voice breaking. "Something terrible just happened at the bank." "What kind of terrible? Are you hurt? Are you safe?" David's questions came rapid fire, and Maya could hear him moving around his office, probably gathering his things. "I'm safe, but Dad, they treated me like a criminal. All I wanted to do was deposit Grandma's birthday money, and they acted like I was trying to rob the place." Maya found herself pouring out the entire story. She told her father about Linda's suspicious questions, about Robert's condescending attitude, about the security guard being called, about how different her treatment was from the other customers. She described Mrs. Peterson's support and how grateful she felt for someone standing up for her. As she talked, she could hear her father's breathing getting deeper and more controlled. Maya knew that sound. It was how her father breathed when he was trying very hard to stay calm. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," David said slowly. "You walked into First National with your student ID, your debit card, and $300 in cash from your grandmother, and they refused to let you deposit it. They said they needed documentation for large cash deposits," Maya explained. "But Dad, I watched them help other people before me, and nobody else got questioned like that. Nobody else had to prove where their money came from." There was silence on the other end of the line. Maya could picture her father in his office, probably standing by the window with that expression he got when he was thinking hard about something serious. "Maya, I want you to listen to me very carefully," David said finally. "Are you still at the bank?" "I'm sitting on a bench outside. I couldn't stay in there anymore." "Good, I want you to stay right there, don't go anywhere. I'm leaving the office right now and I'll be there in less than an hour. Dad, you don't have to come down here, I can just try a different bank tomorrow." "No," David said, and his voice had a steel quality Maya rarely heard. "This is not something you should have to handle alone, and it's definitely not something that should be ignored." Maya heard her father talking to someone in his office, probably his assistant. She caught pieces of the conversation, something about canceling meetings and rescheduling appointments. "Maya, are you still there?" "Yes, Dad. I need to ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest with me. Did anyone at the bank say anything directly about race, or was it more subtle than that?" Maya thought about it. "It was subtle mostly, but Dad, the difference in how they treated me versus the white customers was so obvious. Even Mrs. Peterson noticed it, and she's a stranger." "Mrs. Peterson?" "An elderly white lady who was in line behind me. She stood up for me and told them they were treating me unfairly. She said she'd been banking there for 30 years and had never seen anything like it." David was quiet for a moment. "And what did the bank staff say to that?" "They basically told her to mind her own business. And Dad, when I finally said something about being treated differently because I'm black, they got really defensive and said it had nothing to do with race." "Of course they did," David said grimly. "Maya, I'm proud of you for speaking up even though I know it was difficult." "I felt like I was going to throw up," Maya admitted. "Everyone was staring at me. I just wanted to disappear." "You should," never have to feel that way for simply trying to use banking services, David said. And you're not going to have to feel that way again. Maya heard her father's car door slam and the engine start. Dad, what are you going to do? I'm going to have a conversation with the people at that bank, David replied. A very serious conversation. You're not going to embarrass me, are you? I have to live in this town. David's voice softened. Sweetheart, you have nothing to be embarrassed about. You did nothing wrong. You were polite, you followed their requests, and you were treated unfairly. The people who should be embarrassed are the ones who treated you that way. Maya felt some of the tension leave her shoulders. Her father had always been her biggest supporter, but hearing him validate her experience meant everything to her right now. Dad, can I ask you something? Of course. Why do people act like that? I mean, I know racism exists, but I go to that school where everyone talks about diversity and inclusion. My teachers always say how far we've come as a society. So why did those people at the bank look at me and immediately assume I was up to something bad? David sighed heavily. That's a question I wish I had a simple answer for, Maya. Some people carry biases they don't even realize they have. Others know exactly what they're doing but don't think there will be consequences. And some people are just afraid of what they don't understand. But I'm not scary or threatening. I'm just a teenager trying to deposit birthday money. I know that, and you know that. But some people see a young black person and their minds immediately jump to stereotypes and assumptions. It's wrong, it's unfair, and it needs to be addressed. Maya watched as customers continued to enter and exit the bank. She wondered if any of them had witnessed what happened to her, and if so, what they thought about it. Did they agree with the bank staff? Did they think Maya was overreacting? Or did they recognize the injustice like Mrs. Peterson had? Dad, what if they're right about the documentation thing? What if there really are rules about large cash deposits? Maya, even if there are such rules, they need to be applied equally to everyone. From what you've told me, that clearly didn't happen today. David's voice got more serious. But here's what I want you to understand. This isn't really about banking rules or documentation requirements. This is about how people are treated based on what they look like, and that's something that needs to be addressed directly. Maya could hear that her father was driving now, probably taking the highway route to get to her faster. Are you mad? At me for calling you at work? Mad at you? Maya, I'm proud of you for calling me. This is exactly the kind of situation where you should reach out for support. You handled yourself with dignity in there, and now it's time for the adults to step in and handle the rest. What if nothing changes? What if they just say sorry and keep treating other people the same way? Then we'll make sure there are consequences. That matter, David said simply. Maya, there are ways to address discrimination that go beyond just accepting an apology. Maya felt a mix of comfort and curiosity about what her father meant. She trusted him completely, but she wondered what he could possibly do that would make any real difference to a bank. Dad, how much longer until you get here? About 20 more minutes. Are you okay to wait? Yeah, I'm okay. Mrs. Peterson gave me her phone number before she left. She said if I needed a witness to what happened, she'd be happy to help. That was very kind of her, David said. Maya, I want you to remember that for every person who treats you unfairly, there are others like Mrs. Peterson who will stand up for what's right. I'll remember that. Good. Now sit tight. Your dad is on his way. Maya looked up from her phone as a modest black sedan pulled into the bank parking lot. She recognized her father's car immediately and felt a wave of relief wash over her. David stepped out of the vehicle, and Maya noticed he was wearing one of his simple business suits. Nothing flashy or expensive looking, just the kind of outfit he wore to work every day. As her father approached, Maya could see the controlled anger in his eyes, though his expression remained calm. He sat down beside her on the bench and pulled her into a gentle hug. How are you holding up? He asked softly. Better now that you're here, Maya replied honestly. Dad, you really don't have to make a big deal about this. Maybe I should just find a different bank. David pulled back and looked at his daughter seriously. Maya, what happened to you today was wrong. If we don't address it, it will happen. to someone else tomorrow. Sometimes standing up for what's right means making things uncomfortable for people who are doing wrong. Maya nodded, though she still felt nervous about what might happen next. Her father had always taught her to speak up against injustice, but she had never seen him have to do it in such a direct way. "I want you to wait here," David said, standing up. "This conversation needs to happen, but you don't need to be put through any more stress today." "Are you sure?" "I can come with you if you need me to explain what happened." "I'm sure. You've already been through enough." Maya watched as her father walked toward the bank entrance. To anyone looking, he appeared to be just another customer in a business suit. Nothing about his appearance suggested he was anyone special or important. The bank employees who had treated Maya so poorly had no idea what was about to happen. David pushed through the heavy glass doors and looked around the bank lobby. It was still busy with the afternoon rush, and he could see customers at various windows conducting their business. He approached the same teller window where Maya had been humiliated. Linda looked up as he approached, giving him the same professional smile she had given other customers earlier. "Good afternoon, sir. How can I help you today?" "I need to speak with your branch manager immediately," David said calmly but firmly. Linda's smile faltered slightly. "Is there something specific I can help you with? The manager is quite busy this afternoon." "No, I need to speak with the manager. Please get them now." Something in David's tone made Linda realize this wasn't a request she could brush off. She picked up her phone and made a quick call. Within a few minutes, a woman in her 50s approached the window. Her nameplate read, "Patricia Knox, Branch Manager." Patricia had the same professional demeanor that Linda had shown initially. "Good afternoon, sir. I understand you wanted to speak with me. How can I assist you today?" "My name is David Richardson," he said quietly. "About an hour ago, my 17-year-old daughter was in this bank trying to make a simple deposit. She was treated poorly by your staff, questioned aggressively, and ultimately forced to leave without being able to conduct her banking." Patricia's expression became slightly defensive. "Sir, I'm sure there was just a misunderstanding. Our staff follows all proper procedures for—" "Let me be more specific," David interrupted gently. "My daughter Maya came in to deposit birthday money from her grandmother. She was treated with suspicion, questioned about the source of her money, threatened with security, and made to feel like a criminal. Meanwhile, other customers were served quickly and courteously without any of these extra requirements." Linda, who had been listening from behind the counter, suddenly looked uncomfortable. She began to recognize the description of the interaction from earlier. "I see," Patricia said carefully. "Well, sometimes when there are unusual transactions or large amounts of cash, we do need to follow certain verification procedures." $300 is unusual?" David asked. "And these procedures only apply to some customers?" By now, Linda was looking increasingly nervous. She whispered something to Robert, who had been helping another customer. Robert glanced over at David with a frown, clearly trying to place why this conversation seemed familiar. "Sir, I assure you that all our customers are treated equally," Patricia said, though her voice lacked conviction. David reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out his wallet. From it, he extracted a business card and placed it on the counter, in front of Patricia. Patricia picked up the card and read it. As her eyes scanned the text, her face went completely pale. The card read, "David Richardson, Chairman of the Board, First National Bank." For a moment, Patricia stared at the card in complete silence, as if she couldn't process what she was reading. Then she looked up at David, then back at the card, then at David again. I don't understand," she stammered. "Which part don't you understand?" David asked calmly. "The part where you work for me, or the part where your staff discriminated against my daughter?" Linda had been watching Patricia's reaction, and now she stepped closer to see what was on the card. When she read it, her face drained of all color. She looked like she might faint. Robert, sensing something was seriously wrong, abandoned his customer and hurried over. When Patricia showed him the card with shaking hands, he gripped the counter for support. "Mr. Richardson," Patricia began, her voice barely above a whisper. "I had no idea. I mean, we didn't know. You didn't know. What? David asked. You didn't know that the young black girl you treated poorly might have a father? You didn't know that discrimination is wrong regardless of who the victim's family is? Other customers in the bank had begun to notice that something unusual was happening. The normal buzz of conversation had quieted, and people were glancing toward the teller window, where this tense conversation was taking place. Sir, please, if we could discuss this privately in my office, Patricia pleaded. No, David said firmly. My daughter was humiliated publicly. This conversation will happen publicly. Officer Williams, the same security guard who had been called during Maya's visit, approached the group. Is there a problem here? Patricia looked at him with wide, panicked eyes. Officer Williams, this is Mr. Richardson. He's the... She couldn't seem to finish the sentence. David turned to Officer Williams. You threatened my daughter earlier today. You treated her like a criminal for trying to deposit birthday money. Do you remember that? Officer Williams looked confused. For a moment, then recognition dawned on his face. The young lady with the cash deposit? My daughter, David confirmed. Officer Williams looked from David to Patricia to the business card that was still sitting on the counter. When the reality of the situation hit him, he actually took a step backward. I want everyone who was involved in my daughter's treatment to be present for this conversation, David said. Right now. Patricia nodded frantically and began making phone calls. Within minutes, all the staff members who had interacted with Maya were gathered near the teller window. Each of them looked increasingly uncomfortable as they began to understand who David was and what this meant. The bank had grown quiet, except for the sound of the air conditioning and the occasional whispered conversation. Even customers who were trying to conduct business had slowed down to watch what was unfolding. David looked at each staff member individually. My daughter Maya came into this bank as a customer. She was treated with disrespect and discrimination. Now I'd like each of you to explain to me why that happened. The silence that followed was deafening. The silence in the bank stretched on until it became unbearable. David looked at each staff member, waiting for someone to speak. Finally, Linda cleared her throat nervously. Mr. Richardson, sir, we were just following standard procedures. She began, her voice shaking. Large cash deposits require verification and we treat all customers the same way. David nodded slowly. Really? So when Mr. Johnson deposited his paycheck an hour before my daughter arrived, did you ask him for documentation about where that money came from? Linda's mouth opened and closed without any sound coming out. What about Mrs. Chen, who withdrew $400 for her vacation fund? Did you question her about her intentions for that money? Those were different situations, Robert interjected weakly. Different how? David asked, his voice remaining calm but gaining intensity. Please explain to me exactly how those situations were different from my 17-year-old daughter depositing birthday money from her grandmother. Nobody answered. The customers still in the bank had completely stopped what they were doing and were listening to every word. David continued. Let me tell you what I think the difference was. Those customers were white, and my daughter is black. Those customers were treated with respect and courtesy, while my daughter was treated with suspicion and hostility. Patricia tried to interrupt. Sir, with all due respect, I don't think race had anything to do with... Stop, David said firmly. Just stop. Don't insult my intelligence by pretending this was about banking procedures. I've been in the financial industry for 25 years. I know exactly what standard procedures look like and what happened to my daughter, wasn't it? He turned to address the entire group. My daughter provided proper identification. She explained the source of her money. She offered to bring additional verification tomorrow. She was polite and respectful throughout the entire interaction. And yet you treated her like a criminal. Officer Williams shifted uncomfortably. Sir, I was just responding to what I was told was a difficult customer situation. A difficult customer? David's voice rose slightly for the first time. A 17-year-old girl trying to deposit $300 is a difficult customer? But somehow a grown man depositing twice that amount isn't worth a second glance? David pulled out his phone and began scrolling through something. I've been reviewing our security footage from today. Would you like to see how my daughter was treated compared to the customers who came before and after her? The color drained from every staff member's face. "Mr. Richardson," Patricia said desperately, "please, if we could just discuss this privately, I'm sure we can work something out." "Work something out?" David looked at her with disbelief. "Patricia, you've been the branch manager here for 8 years. You've attended every diversity training session the bank has offered. You have a poster about equal treatment hanging in your office, and yet you allowed this to happen under your supervision." He gestured toward the other staff members. "Linda, you've been here for 12 years. Robert, 15 years. Officer Williams, 5 years. Between all of you, that's 40 years of experience in customer service, and none of you saw anything wrong with how my daughter was treated?" Mrs. Peterson, who had returned to the bank for her own transaction, approached the group. "Excuse me, Mr. Richardson. I was here earlier when your daughter was being mistreated. I want you to know that she handled herself with remarkable grace and dignity. She was respectful even when she was being treated unfairly." David turned to Mrs. Peterson with a grateful expression. "Thank you for standing up for her. It means more than you know." "It was the right thing to do," Mrs. Peterson replied. "What happened to that young lady was wrong, and everyone here knew it." David turned back to the bank staff. "So now we need to talk about consequences." Patricia looked like she might be sick. "Sir, please." "Linda," David said, cutting her off. "You were the primary person responsible for my daughter's treatment. You questioned her motives, you doubted her story, and you called for backup as if she were a threat. Your employment with this bank is terminated, effective immediately." Linda gasped. "Mr. Richardson, please. I have a family. I need this job. You should have thought about that before you decided to discriminate against a customer," David replied. "Robert, as assistant manager, you supported and escalated Linda's behavior instead of correcting it. You're also terminated." Robert started to protest, but David held up his hand. "Officer Williams, you were called to intimidate a 17-year-old girl who was doing nothing more than trying to conduct banking business. You're no longer welcome on this property." David turned to Patricia. "As for you, Patricia, you're being demoted from branch manager to regular teller, and you'll be on probation for 6 months. You'll also be required to complete additional bias training and sensitivity courses." "Mr. Richardson," Patricia said quietly, "I understand you're angry, but don't you think—" "I think I'm being more than fair," David interrupted. "In any other circumstance, discrimination of this nature would result in immediate termination for everyone involved." He addressed the remaining staff members who had witnessed the incident. "The rest of you will be attending mandatory training, sessions on bias, discrimination, and proper customer service. These sessions will begin next week." David then turned to address the customers who were still in the bank. "I want to apologize to all of you for what you witnessed today. The behavior of our staff was unacceptable and does not represent the values of this institution." He pulled out his phone again. "I'm also implementing immediate changes to ensure this never happens again. We're installing a new customer feedback system that will allow people to report discrimination directly to corporate headquarters. We're revising our customer service policies to ensure they're applied equally to everyone, and we're creating a community oversight board that will review any complaints about unfair treatment." Mrs. Peterson spoke up again. "Mr. Richardson, what you're doing is admirable, but how do we know these changes will actually make a difference?" David smiled at her. "That's an excellent question. Starting next month, this branch will publish quarterly reports showing customer satisfaction data broken down by demographics. We'll also be partnering with local community organizations to ensure we're serving all our customers fairly." He paused and looked around the bank. "But the most important change is that every employee here now knows that discrimination has real consequences, and they know that I take this personally." David walked over to the teller window where Maya had been, humiliated. "My daughter will be coming back tomorrow to complete her transaction. She will be treated with the same respect and courtesy that every customer deserves. And if anyone has a problem with that, they can find employment elsewhere." He gathered up his business card from the counter. "Patricia, please have security escort Linda and Robert from the building. I'll be conducting interviews for their replacements starting Monday." As the terminated employees were led away, David addressed the remaining staff one final time. I started this bank 25 years ago because I wanted to create an institution that served everyone in this community fairly. What happened today was a betrayal of everything this bank is supposed to stand for, but it's also an opportunity for all of us to do better. He walked toward the exit, then stopped and turned back. Oh, and one more thing, we're establishing the Maya Richardson Scholarship Fund for local students facing financial barriers to higher education. Because my daughter's experience today, as painful as it was, is going to help other young people in this community achieve their dreams. David stepped outside to find Maya still sitting on the bench, waiting patiently. When she saw him, she stood up quickly. "How did it go?" she asked. David smiled and put his arm around his daughter's shoulders. "It went exactly as it needed to go. Now how about we go get some ice cream and then find you a bank that knows how to treat customers properly?" Maya laughed for the first time since the whole ordeal began. "Actually, Dad, I think this bank might work out just fine after all."